Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for coming to watch. So, guys, has an update on a significant derecho that is expected to move through portions of the upper Midwest today, bringing wind gusts of over hurricane force. I've got all the details coming right up. So, thank you for joining me here on this Monday morning. We have a lot to talk about in this video. Again, we're going to be breaking down this big-time damaging wind threat associated with the line of storms that is expected to move through portions of the Dakotas back into the upper Midwest, places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, expected to get hit very, very hard tonight. So we're going to start out here by taking a look at our current radar, and you can see we have a few things going on. One, we do have, obviously, our line of storms developing here across portions of North Dakota. This will likely become severe over the next couple of hours as it continues to push off to the east there, and this will likely start to produce damaged wind gusts. We're talking about wind gusts of over 75 miles per hour going to be possible there, so hurricane force winds are going to be a possibility, so widespread power outages, tree damage likely. We also do have the remnants of last night's event currently moving across portions of the lower Midwest and Ohio Valley. These should stay sub-severe, these storms, but a few instances of heavy rain, some lightning, and some thunder cannot be ruled out, so make sure you are staying indoors whenever you do become affected by a thunderstorm later this afternoon, but that's going to be pretty much it for the most part. So, we're going to be moving on here to your SPC Outlook. Today's SPC Outlook, our Storm Prediction Center, they have issued a moderate level 4 out of 5 risk for severe weather, including portions of northeastern South Dakota as well as portions of western Minnesota. Again, this is a moderate level 4 out of 5 risk for severe weather. You can see surrounding that we do have an enhanced risk. Now, yesterday, this was only at a slight risk, so they took the jump from a slight to a moderate risk in only one SPC update. So that is something that you almost never see. And if you watch last night's video, you heard me say that the HRRR run that we showed was a very aggressive outlier, though. So maybe was it going to be a kind of a model trend? That was a possibility, or was it just going to be an outlier? Well, we have the answer. It is now a model trend, so a lot of the convective available models, the short-range, high-resolution models, they have all trended towards kind of the same idea as what the HRRR showed last night, and so that's why the Storm Prediction Center has increased their severe threats so quickly that they skipped the enhanced risk and just jumped right to the moderate risk. So I just want to make sure that you guys knew that that actually happened. So we have now introduced a enhanced and moderate risk for severe weather. The moderate risk is going to be including Aberdeen, South Dakota, Watertown, South Dakota, Brookings, South Dakota, Marshall, Minnesota, and Huron, South Dakota. And then our enhanced risk includes Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Lakeville, Minnesota, Mankato, Minnesota, Shakopee, Minnesota, and Mason City, Iowa. So any of these cities, if you live anywhere near these cities in the vicinity or in the kind of the outskirts, make sure that you are staying extra weather aware, that you have multiple areas to receive warnings. Again, this is a very significant severe weather threat. But today's tornado threat, we do have a 5% risk, so that does include portions of eastern South Dakota as well as southwestern Minnesota. We'll get into that tornado threat in a minute, but it is looking like we will see a few embedded tornadoes, and a strong tornado definitely cannot be ruled out, but I definitely do think a few tornadoes are going to be possible today along that line as it continues to push off to the west there. But you can see surrounding that we have that 2% risk. That 5% tornado threat includes Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Aberdeen, South Dakota, Watertown, South Dakota, Brookings, South Dakota, and Mitchell, South Dakota. And finally, our damaged wind threat, it is a 45 hatch threat, so this is a significant chance for seeing damaged wind gusts of 65 knots or greater within 25 miles of a given location. What the Storm Prediction Center is saying that several gusts are expected to exceed 75 miles per hour, so hurricane force winds are likely, and this is a very, very rare 45 hatch wind risk. This is what's driving your moderate risk, so we only see a couple of these usually during the year. But again, this is going to be going out for portions of the moderate risk area. It's actually not including the whole moderate risk area. In fact, the 30 hatch is only including most of the moderate risk area and a little bit of the enhanced risk area. So if you find yourself living in the 45% hatch zone, that's where we have extreme confidence and where we're very worried that there is going to be a significant damaging wind event to occur. But if you live in Aberdeen, Watertown, Brookings, South Dakota, or Marshall, Minnesota, and Huron, South Dakota, anywhere near those areas, please, please, please make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings, because once you get that alert on your phone for that severe thunderstorm warning, you want to make sure you're getting yourself indoors and away from windows, because you don't want, trees to come down and flying debris potentially to, impact your window or whatever. So that's where we have the biggest threat and concern for damaged wind gusts, but surrounding that, we do have a 15% non-hatch, including all of our slight, moderate, and enhanced risk areas, and then we do also have that 5%, including really the surrounding areas here of our severe risk. And then finally, our hail threat is a 15% non-hatch. It includes kind of the western half of our event, so these storms are expected to start out as more of a semi-discrete mode, and that's where we're going to see the largest hail threat, but that will really transition into more of a tornado and damaging wind threat later on into the late afternoon and early evening hours. Alright, so we're going to be breaking down this severe weather outbreak hour by hour here. So we take a look at the morning run of the HRRR. This is the 60. You can see that really what it's depicting is that a few cells start to get going out here across portions of southern North Dakota, and they continue to race off to the east, and really initiation in South Dakota doesn't occur until very late. So we're talking about 4 p.m. we start to get a few of these blips, which are these little showers that develop right south of the Aberdeen area. Now, this is where we're probably talking about the biggest large hail threat. You can see the HRRR going for a few cells up here in North Dakota to really spike those DBZ values, which is a sign of obviously very large hail producers. So you have steep low-level lapse rates, which is just going to kind of help out the hail threat. So very, very tall and strong rotating updrafts are going to be able to suspend those hailstones higher and higher into the air, to the point where we're probably going to see some hailstones maybe into the 2-inch range. So again, big time hail is expected for portions of central North and South Dakota, but you finally start to see more widespread initiation here across portions of southern South Dakota, especially south of Pierre, and these storms explode as they move off to the west. We're getting into 6-7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, so really just about the dinner time kind of time frame here. You can see we have a widespread kind of messier little mode here of storms across portions of eastern South Dakota. Now, if these storms become a little bit more messy and they kind of struggle to become linear, now that could certainly limit our damaging wind threat, because obviously yesterday on the HRRR, we almost immediately saw the storms kind of congeal into a linear line and start to immediately bow out, which is a sign that we forecasters look for when we're talking about, a significant damage wind threat. We don't see that right off the bat here on the morning run of the HRRR, so you could almost say that there is a slight downtrend, and we'll get into more specifics, obviously, but it's still a very significant threat nonetheless, and those storms continue to move out. So really, if you're looking for your biggest severe threat in, let's say, central and western South Dakota, it's going to be from really now, talking about the time of recording this video, to about, 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time. If you're talking about eastern South Dakota, where we have the moderate risk, that's going to be more or less like 7, 8, 9 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and that's where we're going to be talking about the significant damage and wind threat. So we move over here to, we'll actually go over to Minnesota here. We'll get to those wind gusts in just a minute, but we take a look at what's going to be happening on the Minnesota side of things after that line of storms move through South Dakota. Well, you look for when they eventually do bow out, and you actually do get that signature there right around area south of St. Cloud. As the storm continues to approach the Minneapolis metro area, really see more of that well-defined line there as it continues to race off to the east. And at this point, this is likely producing damage wind gusts of 80, maybe even as high as 90 miles per hour, but you start to see kind of that signature of a little bow here, and that's what we look for, again, when we're forecasting these events, is strong outflow winds, which are the kind of winds that are going to be pushing, very strong 70, 80, 90 mile an hour winds out of a severe thunderstorm. So that's what we see here, in the possible derecho continues to move south. Now, I will say this has upticked a lot for areas farther to the east. Now, that's just because we're expecting this line now to kind of bow out and become a little bit more well-defined later in the event. So we're talking about, the very late overnight and early morning hours of tonight into tomorrow morning. If that does happen, we're talking about still Minneapolis, St. Cloud, Mankato, and Rochester all under the gun for a significant damage wind threat, but also La Crosse, Eau Claire, Ironwood. These areas still also should not let their guard down, because this is going to be a very long tracking event, and the later it gets, the more the higher the chance you guys are going to see severe weather will be. But this is by midnight tonight. You can see still a very well-defined line racing across portions of western Wisconsin into La Crosse and Eau Claire. So we're actually going to turn this over to Wisconsin here, so you guys can get a better look at what areas need to be on alert for this part of the state here. You can see the line continues to move out, and it's still presenting that little bow echo feature there. Still seeing very, very strong outflow winds along this, probably 70 to 80, even 90 mile an hour winds going to be possible, but this is racing off to the east. So Stevens Point, Madison, Janesville, maybe all the way out to Oshkosh. You guys need to be still on alert. Make sure that even if while you're going to bed, that you still have multiple ways to receive warnings, because you obviously do not want to sleep through an event like this. And thankfully it does start to kind of really weaken and fall apart just as it gets to the Stevens Point area, but still some strong storms are going to be possible. So really after midnight is when the severe threat will start to die down as a whole. Alright, so we're going to be moving on here to your damaging wind gusts. This is going to be your simulated wind gust map from the HRRR here. And so what the HRRR is going for is that those cells that start to initiate out here in North Dakota already producing wind gusts, maybe even up to 60 miles an hour, so 40 to 60 mile an hour winds associated with those storms. And finally, once the storms start to get going in South Dakota, you can see officially we start to see those hurricane force winds. We're talking about maybe even as high as 80 mile an hour wind gusts as this approaches the Aberdeen, Brookings, and Sioux Falls area. So very significant. I mean, we're talking about life-threatening wind gusts at this point entering our moderate risk area, but multiple localized area of hurricane plus force winds are going to be possible, and by that I mean wind gusts over hurricane force, potentially even up to 90 miles an hour, and those significant winds race off to the east there. And we take a look at our folks out here in Minnesota, and I mean it's just really showing a very ugly situation developing. You can see again south of Brookings, we're talking about wind gusts of excess of 75 miles per hour, but also look at this little area of wind gusts approaching Minneapolis, packing wind gusts up to 95 miles per hour. So again, this is a kind of situation that we really need to pay attention closely to, because if a major city like Minneapolis, or let's say St. Cloud, Fargo, Brookings, Aberdeen, any of those population centers, if they do get hit by 80 to 90, maybe even as high as 100 mile an hour wind gusts, it's going to be a huge problem, because we're going to talk about widespread power outages, but also lots of tree damage. So big time damaging wind threat rolling right through Minneapolis. I mean, look at this huge swath of, you're talking in those gold shades, 70 to 90 mile an hour winds from north of Minneapolis, St. Cloud, Mankato, Brookings, on approach to places like Eau Claire, Rochester, and La Crosse. This is 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We have hurricane force winds ripping right through the Minneapolis metro area, crossing into portions of Wisconsin, and still south of La Crosse, we're talking about wind gusts of potentially up to 75 miles per hour. And then it finally starts to kind of fizzle out as it moves farther and deeper into Wisconsin. So very significant damaging wind and hail threat. Now we do take a look at your tornado threat. We're going to be looking at a run to hour maximum updraft velocity. So basically an easier way to kind of understand this is we're looking at where the HRRR is depicting a few areas of possible spin to develop in the atmosphere associated with those storms. So we're talking about rotation to develop tornadoes, and you can see the HRRR is going for a huge swath here of lots of rotation to develop. So it wants these storms that develop in North Dakota to start to rotate and potentially produce tornadoes. Again, this is where we have that 5% tornado threat. You can see much more widespread updraft velocity track showing up in eastern South Dakota. So that's going to be a sign of, again, more areas to watch of spin and rotation in the atmosphere, where we can definitely have some embedded tornadoes associated with that line of storms. And we move over here to Minnesota, and even in Minnesota, we're talking about a very widespread area of helicity and spin in the atmosphere. So lots of areas of rotation embedded with that line are going to be possible. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty concerned about this tornado threat. I think that we could definitely not, we can't rule out a few tornadoes. I think that even a strong tornado is going to be possible at the highest point, or the highest outcome of this event, but very, very dangerous severe weather outbreak is looking likely here for folks in the upper plains and the upper Midwest. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys stay safe out there. Have multiple ways to receive warnings, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you all for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.